No, 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 not at all. Not at all. Oh, no. It's cold. Good. Just one. Oh, good. No, just one. Yeah, he's good. He's good. Okay. I was FaceTiming with him yesterday, and he was just crying. I'll see you tomorrow.
It's going. It's Friday, baby.
That's right, TTIF.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, that is awesome. How long were you there?
Almost 2 weeks.
Wow.
Worcester Park.
That's awesome.
Conference.
Tasmania.
Out of
Were you there
here.
for a conference? Okay. Okay.
Another lovely day. Like Ron used to say,
Oh, that's
another lovely day in the
awesome.
Republic.
That's a bucket list.
Every
trip.
day in the Republic, sun shines and honey drips from the tree.
That's really cool.
Hey, are you,
That's really cool.
Technically, I'm down.
It doesn't pay anything. There's no money in it.
What an
It doesn't
honor.
come
We-
with a pension.
We thought she made you first chair.
Oh, she saved me yesterday. See, when you go to South Texas College of Law and air conditioning repair, we're dual licensed. So I can lose that license any day.
And work on AC?
Oh, there's plenty of AC work in the area. I think ahead. I don't just plan one career route.
My daddy told me that when I got out of high school. If you can't get into college, get an AC
Yeah.
certificate.
Well, my dad was in bricklayer, and he wouldn't let us be a bricklayer. It was so hard. If you want to be in construction, be an electrician or a plumber. They never out of work, ever. You're calling them when that toilet stops up, okay? And you're paying the going rate. And no one wants to touch that electricity. All right. Where's Mr. Parks? Oh. Well, it just doesn't operate without him. I don't know what we're gonna do, and he's retired. We are. You have any opening remarks? You want us to start?
Yeah, he's ready.
All right, I want to thank y'all. As said the other day, it's been a long process, but in all of these deals, eventually we come to a meeting of the minds. Everybody gets some things on their list and some things they have to compromise on, and that's the way the process works. I'm appreciative of the hard work of the city, the manager, and hopefully the council, that we can get this done. So we had a tentative agreement in principle, but which basically said, except for a few things of which we might catch, we agreed in the principle, and that's where we are today. And what I'm going to go through are just the things that,
Well, and just let me say, I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
I think that all of the substantive pieces of this puzzle, everybody decided that this is a deal we can do. You know, we understand that, I mean, it's a handshake. We
Yeah.
frequently call it a handshake, you know, and that means that there's always cleanup. We've never done one of these deals, and, you know, it's not just us, all the other people that do this around the state of Texas and the country. You know, once you get a tentative agreement, you got to make sure the document's right.
Yeah.
You know, and lots of times, even after the best efforts on both sides, you find that you missed something, and you have to clean it up later.
Yeah.
So that's where we are, and
Yeah.
so we feel like we have a 4-year deal, subject to ratification on your side and approval on our side,
Yeah.
and we're here to finish that process of getting it cleaned up, and I think we can probably make short work of it. So.
all right, I'm not going to go through what's in it, because what's in it's already agreed on, is already posted, and this will be the final stuff. So I'm going to go through the things of which there were some typos and minor things.
Perfect.
And a couple of things that we just needed to refine. All right, in Article 7, Section 11, Article 7 is wages and benefits, and in Section 11 just says the city is going to pay on a monthly, and we update that each contract. And so, since our tentative, if the contract's approved by both sides, would be April 1st, we just added in the green, or otherwise provided in this agreement, because there could be other start dates, and I don't want people to think, oh, every bit of this goes in effect. It doesn't. So take a look at that. That's just to cover us, because there are other things that don't start till 2, 3, 4 years from now.
Right.
Okay. If you'll then go to Section 13. That's severe weather. We're having a problem with the language. I would recommend the department shall adopt a policy that includes process to obtain emergency hotel lodging. I would scratch hotel. Because we could have a major disaster and they rent a dorm room to put 200 police officers in to work 24/7. So it's the same thing. Okay. And so let the city be flexible on that. And then go to Article 10, Section 4. This was we're not changing the intent of what the parties agreed on, but it was kind of cut and pasted. So it had some things in the middle, so we just kind of cleaned it up. You want to comment on it, Jessica?
Yeah, so, as you guys know, we classify vacation differently under different circumstances. So we have regular vacation, we have exception vacation. So all I did was clarify that when the provision for the increased accruals expires, that we go back to 400 of vacation and 160 of exception vacation, just so there's no confusion.
So there's no change in the city's position.
The
We just
content, yeah.
thought the language needed to be adjusted. So, anyway, take a look at that. That just puts us where we think we ought to be, and that's just a period of time, because with the shortage of officers are not being able to burn up their vacation and such, they're having to work. This gives them a chance to accumulate. Then, once we get past that and the city hires more officers, it'll go back to where it was in the old contract. All right, Article 11, Section 3. Was that yet?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah,
that's
yeah.
just talking about
Oh, yeah.
going back to status quo.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
What happened is, when I was cleaning it up, the city's position was they agreed to expand the pool for association leave from 7,000 to 10,000, but they did not agree to any other expansions. But further down in there, I had not taken out all and got it back to as is.
Yeah, and so.
That
so-
all goes back to as is.
So subsection 3, right? My understanding is that in 2020, y'all went from 2 to 3.
Yes.
We currently have 3, so 3 will change. It will go from 2 to 3 because that's current. And then I think what I was talking with the team about is that those last 3 lines, effective October 1. I mean, should we just strike that?
Strike that.
No,
Yeah.
We can.
I'm fine with striking it.
Only because it just
That doesn't cover the term.
It just
it's
says
not
we're
in the
gonna
term of this
go-
agreement.
in 2024 we're gonna stay at 3.
Right.
Wait. All right. I didn't bring my deal.
It's fine.
The current language was 3. And
Current
you-
language was 2,
2.
and then in
Oh, I thought it-
2018, and then in 2020 we went to 3, and now we're staying at 3. We're not going to increase to 4.
Okay. So up above, it's a 2.
So up above it'll be 3,
Oh.
and then paragraph 2 will be
Oh, that was a
struck.
transition in the middle of the
Correct,
last
yeah.
contract?
Yes.
All right, let me make,
We're on the same page.
let me just make it, all right, so. Just give me a second here. Oop. All right, I'll fix it in just a second. All right, I'll highlight it. All right, let's go to Article 16, which is the oversight provision. Go to Section 2.
So this is going to be the definition of complainant. I think there was just an incorrect copy and paste, which may have unfortunately given the public a erroneous view on how we were defining complainant. We do still intend to have not only victims, but those witnesses with firsthand knowledge to be able to act as complainants for the purposes of this article.
Yeah,
So
we knew that was just a
yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
typo.
scrivener's
Yeah.
error, typo,
Yeah.
whatever.
There was some public comment yesterday.
Yes, there was.
That,
Right.
I just want to make sure that everybody is clear that at no point was it our intent to limit the
Absolutely.
complainant to the victim.
Yeah, and I think we've been in unison on that message at every one of these public sessions.
Yes, sir.
I wish people would just be a little bit more forthright, frankly.
Yeah. So it's been corrected. It is back to what everybody's original intent was in the current version.
All right, if you'll go to Section 3F, this is a reverter, and I think all that we would ask is where we strike "are as applicable." I think, and I'll just state what I think it means and confirm. If during the term of this agreement, there's litigation that alters ordinances, policies, or anything to do with oversight, if the city believes that somehow alters what they had agreed to, then they're welcome to take it back to the current contract. That's up to the city, not the association. So they may not, and if they do, then that's it. We just want to make it clear that it's all or nothing. We live with what we got. What happens outside of these are external things to the contract. So we have language to deal with if the contract is held heavy illegal. We have a fix for that to remove it. So is that clear on the intent?
I think that is totally consistent with the way I explained our objective here. We were not suggesting that we were going to be able to exercise some prerogative to pick and choose. There may well be aspects of the old articles that would not be applicable, but they either are or they aren't. So that was really more of, understanding what that would look like. That obviously is a terrible outcome for us. I think it's
Yes.
highly unlikely that it's going to happen. And hopefully, to the extent that there is adverse determinations by courts or arbitrators or whatever, what we have that remains is still considerably better than the old deal.
Yes.
That's what we actually think is the most likely scenario. So that's acceptable to us.
Okay. Let's go to Article 17. Let's see
Are you
here.
going to go right back
Huh?
up to 16G2?
16, 4G. I'm sorry, I think my second chair. Let's see.
You want to move up?
You're going to have to, I think she's had about enough of me. I don't want to move up here. It's been a long year.
Oh, yeah.
Let's,
So we think that for
There.
purposes of posting for the public notice, that it should actually be the APD case number, because we think that would actually give the public a better idea of what incident is actually being discussed at that.
We were talking
Public
about
meeting?
that. We were
Okay.
talking about that, and we still think the IA case number is the most appropriate number, but we could add in something like and APD case number if applicable, because there may not be an APD
I mean,
case
we're
number.
not opposed to it saying internal affairs case number. We just wanted to give the public the best information if we're going to provide it on an agenda.
Well, and many times that's where they have started. They started with an original case number.
Right.
And that's the number they have that doesn't match up. So
Right.
what do
So
we
both?
think? Should it be
Yeah.
both?
Yeah.
I don't think it can hurt to do both.
Right.
We do,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
both.
fine.
That's
Let's
what
do
we've
that.
got, and that's
Yeah.
what we've
Okay.
discussed.
Sylvia, that makes sense, okay.
all right. If you'll go to Article 17, Section 6. Oh, yeah, there you go. It's about page 68.
So there was just a redundancy here.
And let
The-
him get it up. There it is.
The last sentence of section A is also captured in B. So if you want to strike the last sentence in A and keep B, or just strike B, whatever you guys.
It's the same
yeah.
sentence twice.
It's the
Oh,
exact same
gotcha.
thing.
Okay.
Okay.
So what's your pleasure? Someone will
Yeah.
clean this up.
I think delete it in A and leave it as B.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
All right,
agree.
give me just a second. Okay.
And then we have a C, obviously.
Yeah, that C will be there. Let's see. All right, and let's go, the last one is section 18. Section 8A.
Go up.
No, did I miss one?
No, just talking to him.
All
Article
right.
18.
No,
Article 18, section 8.
yeah. Get to it. All right.
Yeah, right
Before,
there.
yeah, before we talk about the language, let me just, for just public consumption, since this probably is the most confusing thing to people who don't work in this very narrow world. There are currently 3 statutes of limitation over charging an officer with a departmental violation. None of this has anything to do with criminal, has nothing to do with anything. It just has to do with whether or not the officer can be disciplined by the chief. Now, one of them is in the state statute, 143.056, which sets out if you're charged with a crime or misdemeanor, the chief then just notifies the attorney general. This is an open investigation. Those generally run until the officer's either cleared, or if he's convicted, it's moot. If he's officer's cleared, the chief still has 30 days to fire him, for departmental violence. That's been the law since the 80s. So in the contract, there are 2 statute of limitations currently. They basically follow what's in the state law. It was fixed at the same time. If the charge against the officer, administrative charge, doesn't have any criminal implications, doesn't have to be a crime, then the department has to suspend you or issue discipline within 180 days of occurrence. The second part of that is that if the charge has some criminal implication, is subject to a criminal penalty, you don't have to be charged, then the department has 180 days from discovery, and discovery is when a supervisor, assistant chief, or above. So you can't hide something. If you committed an offense that falls in here and you try to hide it, 25 years from now they find out about it and you're still there, they can still fire you. So what we have now, in light of really just the public debate, is a third category that kind of fills this little space between where we are here and actually charged, where these certain egregious offenses occur and they don't fall within the other 2. They need longer than 180 days. And so the city has requested we have some, what we think makes it work better, adjustments. So if a serious misconduct, which we defined as in custody death, use of force for serious bodily injury, deliberate arrest and detention, deliberate falsification, official oppression, civil rights violations, inside of those, that category, the chief has up to 365 days of which to bring a charge. And so this is what the city offered. I took out the 1 year because we shouldn't have 1 year and 365, because leap year will come along and someone will argue, well, it was 366. It's 365. We can all count 365 calendar days.
We need to argue over that for a long time.
Well, we can, but I'll be gone, so I'll be watching it on the video.
Let me give you some
Yeah.
some initial reaction. We'll have to talk about this a little bit in caucus. I consider the changes and so forth here to be a very legitimate attempt to take our handshake and put it on paper, okay? And I want to express my my appreciation to the team. This has been tough for y'all's side, and we understand that. We know that y'all have been opposed to this from the beginning. You've told us something like over our dead body several times up until this point in time, and we appreciate your willingness to recognize that this is this is kind of a public imperative. And what we're doing to this now is trying to make sure that it is properly and correctly defined. I obviously want that to happen, because when and if this occurs and these cases go to appeal, I want them to be able to be susceptible for professional, competent, thorough investigation by IA and OPO, and I want that case to be able to go forward on appeal without problems. And so what I see here in y'all's efforts is certainly consistent with that. There are some pieces of what you're proposing here that I may have a problem with, but we'll study it and talk about it internally. I think we're headed in the right direction here. A number of the changes that you're making here don't take anything away substantively from what we've asked you for.
That's correct. I would add that we had this discussion, Jessica and I, yesterday, about it didn't include in the city's proposal a start date for discovery, and you think, well, that'd be great. No, because in the language what we added was, then it would be advantageous for an officer to hide the event. In this way, you can't, once the department has where, and this will only apply in cases where they decide to go past 180 days to charge them. Because if it's inside 180 days from discovery, this is immaterial. It can discipline you for any of these offenses. They all fall within criminal-related activity.
And for public consumption, when we're looking through this, I want to make sure the APA's position on this, when you're adding in 5 and 6 beyond mere accusation and supported by evidence that such violation did occur. You're talking at the time discipline is imposed, that criterion has to be there, not pre-investigation, correct?
So that's kind of a concept that we're still trying to flesh out ourselves a little bit, because there's gonna have to be a time in which somebody decides, is this a 180-day case or is this a 365 case? And so at the beginning, that's why we didn't put a burden of, it's not clear and convincing, it's not preponderance, there's no burden of proof with this evidence. It's just that, is there something there that would support this longer time period for
Well, that's-
investigation?
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off. That's very helpful, Jessica, that what you're really talking about in 5 and 6 is kind of like probable cause.
Right.
Yes.
You're not talking about the ultimate level of preponderance that
No.
goes to the arbitrator on the appeal. You're saying for that case to go forward at 365, there basically needs to be a potential case there.
Correct.
That helps me evaluate why that's necessary.
Yeah.
Because my response was going to be on 5 and 6, we're gonna have to prove that case by preponderance anyway.
Well, we know that. That's
Yeah.
the burden on the
Right.
employer. But our conversation, this was, like you said, we struggled with this, but these are just exceptions
Yeah.
to something which
Yeah.
doesn't really happen much now, but could.
Yeah.
And so we're okay with that. So, but if you're gonna go past, after 6 months, you
Right.
can't get any more than, you can't prove not anything, it's just a email that showed up, well, then you probably need to charge within the first, but you can do it. Okay, so
we'll take
take
a
a look at
We'll,
those.
we'll think, we'll
All
think
right,
about
that's
that.
all we had, unless you had anything. And once we can do that, I'll create a clean red line for everybody to look.
Becky, did you have any other things that you had
I-
caught, just, kind of
yeah,
basic?
Just some minor things, like going back to 18, I noticed that B and C were deleted in your draft.
B,
Ron.
I'm sorry, where are you at?
Section.
If it's not in there, it's just current contract language.
Is there, did I miss,
Oh,
and-
right there, actually.
Yeah, it should be right underneath 3.
Below your number 6, above section 9, there's a current B and C that's missing.
And it just talks about how the officer and the chief can extend the
Oh.
deadlines in 1, 2, and 3 above.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
Well-
I'll add that back in.
okay.
That's existing language,
That,
right?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
current practice.
These are cut and paste from the current contract.
Well, that's why we got both eyes on
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
you know,
I missed
so,
that, all right.
I do have in Article 8, overtime on call, and callback, there was some changes that the city had made in subsection C, and it's not substantive. It was basically language changes requested by legal to just be consistent with the FLSA. And I don't think we got an actual affirmative, okay, we're okay with that, or we disagree with that.
Well, what,
Is it the lieutenant?
Yes.
No,
Oh, it's
no,
not.
it's not. It's just
No, it was
general
that- the seal
FLSA.
stuff.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
remember.
Oh, it's
stuff.
the
Yeah.
Maria.
I don't remember ever seeing it.
I'll tell you, let me try to refresh your memory.
It's been a few months.
Yeah, so we said it had to do with pay codes, and that it was with what Thomas had met with Maria Uchik and Lee Crawford on it. He said, oh, I'll explain that to you guys, I know what they're talking about. So we didn't go over it heavily with you at the time.
Yeah,
And that's probably why he left earlier.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
okay.
well, let's find it really quick and
Yeah,
just,
let me
and just show you what we're
Tell me
talking about.
what it is, 'cause
They don't have that in there.
Oh, it's not included?
No.
Well,
Yeah.
it's in our draft. It's
Right.
in
Yeah.
my red line, but
If you'll
I don't-
send it to me and let me
Yeah.
look at it, if it's just clean up, then I don't see a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, it's
Okay.
pay codes.
Okay.
And I think for the accrual caps, we noticed in the team on Article 10 that instead of effective Jan 1, 2023, it should probably be effective upon the date of this agreement.
Okay.
I saw that, but it was your,
You were gonna take it?
no, I didn't. You can't get paid retroactively.
Yeah.
All right, so effective upon execution of this agreement, ratification?
That's the Greenville case. McCamey did that,
Yeah,
the retro pay
Um,
case.
yeah.
I do have some other real minor things, like authorized, should be authorized, it's super
Okay.
Okay.
minor typos which don't need to be hashed out here, which I can send y'all in our draft. But otherwise, that's really it, the substantive.
Got it wrapped up, Dustin's up.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't mess
All
it up.
right, if you'll, you've got all this, if you'll then clean it up and
Oh,
send it to
okay.
me and let me work through it.
Now that Thomas is back, or I can just send him the language for
Just
that
send it to
FLSA?
us.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right. Anything?
I'm not
else?
really in charge of it.
It was the FLSA language, and at the time we presented it, it was right after you met with Lee and Maria, and you said, oh, I know what they're talking about, I'll explain it to you.
Mhm.
That's what they still need explained.
I didn't have it.
I don't
He-
remember
it-
that.
I don't remember
It had
it
been
either.
in our last version.
We'll have a conversation.
Yeah,
It's nothing substantive or crazy, so.
yeah, it's pay code stuff.
That's it, that's all we really have.
Okay, so then we can review the language that you provided us, and, what time is it now?
10:43.
I'm sorry?
10:43.
10:43.
It was, it's a secret time. Say 11:30?
Yes,
I've got to leave at 11:30, but y'all can do this without me.
Oh, yeah,
we got
knew
it.
that.
we got it. All right, we'll see you at 11:30.
Nothing new to me.
All right, thank you.
Jistel's back there laughing at me.
we should probably fill in right there. You say April 1, comma.
All right, we're good. We're on the record, and we've had an opportunity to visit about your proposed adjustments and clarifications and cleanup language and so forth. And so we have a few things to go through, and Becky's gonna walk through the document. We just noticed here, as we were looking at it, that we probably need to do a date update on the front page here. April 1?
April 1.
That's what we're talking about.
Well,
What are your thoughts?
I think in the past, we've not, it just said whatever date the ratification has
Effective date.
been.
Okay.
And I do that.
Effective date?
And then if you, as far as money or things, you have a set date in there
No,
for that.
absolutely. And
So
that's
I-
there, right.
I think, yeah, if we set that.
We'll leave it blank.
And what if something happens?
Yeah,
Mighty
we'll
good.
leave it
Gotcha,
blank.
Just leave it blank. Then we'll just write it.
What
in.
could possibly happen?
It's a perfect world.
Alright.
All right. Tell me where you're going.
I'm going to 7,
All right.
and here we added effective the first full pay period after January 1. It used to say beginning,
Oh.
just to be consistent. Here, y'all's version said police officer. The pay table just says officer, so we just changed it to officer. This is the FLSA language we were telling you about this morning, so I stuck that in there.
Should that say by a source outside the city
Yeah.
instead of
Course.
course outside the city?
Oh, I see. Contracted by a source outside the city. Yes, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm. Same thing here. It used to say January 1, 2023, so we just changed it to upon the effective date of this agreement.
Okay.
And then if we, anything green that you had that we just agreed to, I changed it to blue and
No, that's fine.
so I don't think there was anything in promotions, which is fairly lengthy. Nothing in hiring process.
Busy.
Nothing in drug testing. Okay, Article 16. Complaint, so that's fine, we can change that there.
You're talking about that clause that we relocated?
Yes.
typo, yeah.
Yeah. It was green and now it's just
Right,
blue, so.
right.
The reverter provision we struck out,
Okay.
at what y'all requested, so that's out of there.
All right.
We made a change here, ordinance, it used to say ordinance, so, okay. And then here, internal affairs case number and ABD case number if applicable, okay. Should be nothing else in
The
6.
reverter.
We already
Oh,
did it.
We covered it.
We
just
covered
did
that.
it.
No. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I operate one click short.
You're reverting to
My
the last
elevator
meeting.
is
But you
still-
said, okay, you agreed?
I did.
17.
6B. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, change that to C.
C, bottom of
Oh,
C now.
yeah, we gotta change that to C, got
And then
it.
your formatting paragraph, you can fix that.
And just a footnote, you saw that on where mental health ran out, you
We
adjust
had-
the numbers, you just put them back where they
Right,
were. Okay.
right. When I was going through 7, I was like, why
I
did we,
understand.
yeah, so.
Yeah, I got you. 18, section 8, there.
So, we've studied this provision here, and we're willing to accept the changes that you have proposed.
Go down
I want to
a
go
little
over this a little
Five and
bit
six.
so that everybody understands what we're doing here and what the logic is behind this. So as I commented earlier, I had some reservations about 5 and 6. I don't think that your additional language is necessary, but it certainly is not harmful, because what this is talking about, and go back to the beginning so we'll see what this says. What it says is that the chief is precluded from imposing discipline or otherwise complaining about acts earlier than 365 days immediately preceding the date on which a supervisor at the rank of assistant chief or above discovers. So what the public accomplishes by this, with the consent and approval, obviously subject to ratification by your members, in this section, is to change the state law definition of the statute of limitations on discipline for a police officer. The chief cannot impose that discipline in the earlier sections later than 180 days. In this section, it's 365 days for the types of misconduct defined here. That means that if the chief has, by preponderance of the evidence, the information that shows that those violations actually existed, subject to appeal by the officer to an arbitrator, then that's the time period. And when this is going to apply is going to be in a fairly narrow set of circumstances, because if there's been a previous criminal investigation, the matter's probably been placed on hold with a letter to the Attorney General under the statute. And so sometimes those go along forward for years. Okay, not just a year, but multiple years. And we've all seen that, and there have been some in this department. Once again, the language that you've added at the end, I understand that. I think it's probably, for the most part, to make sure that your membership understands that there is a high burden of proof here in these cases. And that's true. That's the reality. That's what's going to happen. And the other thing the public needs to understand is it's not just 365 days. It's 365 days after discovery at the chief's level. That's another improvement over Chapter 143, which we made, I think, the last cycle or the cycle before at this bargaining table. So I think this is a significant improvement in terms of what the public needs to have confidence that police officers are going to be held accountable for misconduct, and I think it's a good provision overall. And so we will accept those changes. Any further comment? Did I cover?
No, that
the
covers
pieces?
it.
Just, I know this is confusing. It's like inside baseball, a very narrow statute. But nobody on our side, I've made this my public position. I think the association has agreed. We have no intent to have a gotcha. If someone commits misconduct of a serious nature, then they have to answer whether they're guilty or not. These are all rule violations, because, like you said, if it gets over on the criminal side, that's another set of rules that we don't control. So I think this meets what your objectives were. It provides the officers with the opportunity to defend themselves against these accusations.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's serious, there's nobody, if you try to hide it 10 years from now and they found out that you met one of these criteria, they can fire you then. There's no real, 365 is after they find out.
Right.
So it could be a year from now,
Yeah.
2 years, somebody comes forward with serious misconduct allegations. And you think, well, it's been 2 years. Well, it starts that day.
That's
And
right.
that's just the charging document.
Right.
That's all the 365.
And that discovery's not at the sergeant level, it's at the assistant chief level.
That's correct. So somebody at the bottom,
Yeah.
if they colluded with you,
Right.
then it doesn't stop it. So anyway, I think we're on the same page. We appreciate you. I know it's a leap for us.
And it is. And
It is.
it's not it's a hard step to take.
Yes.
And, you know, I mean, that's the world that everybody's living in. It's been happening in
Yes.
some other cities.
Yes.
I
Well-
think y'all did one of these in San Antonio.
San Antonio has a similar
Yeah.
period, and Bear County
Bear
now
County
has a
does as
similar
well.
language.
And of course, the reality is, this paragraph is only going to be applicable to future disciplinary issues and controversies when 180 days is run.
That's right.
And we're gonna find 90, 95, 98% of them in 180 days.
Well, if they're that serious, then they're not gonna wait a year to charge you.
Right.
Okay.
And also, just so that the public discussion for people that are listening is also clear, is this has nothing to do with the potential criminal culpability that's covered by statute of limitations that are much longer.
That's all done by state law, federal law, and US Constitution.
Right.
We're not bargaining over that. Strictly rule violations, although some people think we are.
Right.
All right, anything else?
Other than
And
that,
you're gonna,
Was that the last change in the
that
document?
was the last
and
change.
you're gonna clean this up and send it to us, and
Yeah.
then put it out. There could be some typos or things, but
Right.
no substantive issues left.
I did email you this, but now that we've talked about it, I'll clean up a little more and I'll send you a clean
Okay.
Well,
copy.
I only
yeah.
noted one
Yeah.
change, the 6B needs to be changed to C.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Was there anything else that we just saw?
This, I realize B and C is not added back in, so I'm
Oh,
gonna do
yeah,
that as
B and
well.
C.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
Okay.
I'll let you clean it up, and then you do it before, you're gonna do it before you leave today.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Next
we'll
few
go
minutes.
through it and get it out to our members, and then hopefully Sarah will spend next week educating the council and getting them up to speed, and so.
So I have one final proposal. I think we should shake hands and say we have a deal.
I'm welcome to do that. All right, so,
Without Thomas?
well,
That's fine. He had a bigger meeting
he's at
than
a
this.
secret meeting.
Fair
Secret
enough.
meeting.
Gotta
Fair
do
enough.
it. All right. Thank you, Sarah.
Melanie.
Don't wish for those jobs, like you said. She left the easy world over in your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you'll be dealing with it. Now, you get everything you can get.
Thank you for all your work. Appreciate it.
Right, well, we don't have Thomas. We'll get it for the signing.
Yeah.
All right.
Now that he knows what that is.
I was